Hello, everyone. I'm Aaron McGuire, and this is my co-host.
I'm Shawn Torres.
And this is Silver Screening, our first ever episode of our CTV content here at Concho Valley Homepage. We are going to be looking at movies and TV shows as they get onto your television and into your theaters. From the latest and greatest in Hollywood down to the annual antics of Netflix, Amazon Prime, Hulu, and more.
Did you forget a streaming service? Did you get them all?
I don't know if I did, actually. There's so many these days. It seems like there's a new one every other day.
Honestly.
Anywho, welcome to Silver Screening.
Coming to you from the Stream Center at Concho Valley Homepage, powered by KLST and KSAN, where we break down the biggest movies, hidden gems, and everything in between. This is Silver Screening on ConchoValleyHomepage.com.
All right, everyone. Like what we were saying, this is our inaugural episode of Silver Screening. We got a good lineup for you today, as many movies, as of the time of recording, are already starting to get into theaters, starting to get into the TV shows. Our main lineup for today is Zootopia 2, the final season of Stranger Things, Five Nights at Freddy's 2, and Fallout Season 2. To begin with, we're going to be taking a look at Zootopia Season 2. On screen now, you should be seeing some clips from trailers that we've been able to find throughout the internet. These have been a big talk of town lately, especially as this is one of the most familiar topics with family-friendly entertainment that have been coming up in recent history. Shawn, you want to talk about the casting?
Yes, sir. So today, for the casting of Zootopia 2, we have the main character is going to be Judy Hopps, as played by Jennifer Godwin. And you have Nick Wilde, who's played by Jason Bateman, which I'm a big fan of. He's in stuff like Horrible Bosses. And he's really known for his role in Ozark, a TV show that I'm pretty sure a lot of y'all have seen before. And then Gary D. Snake is Ke Huy Quan. He is famous for his role in Indiana Jones when he was just a small boy. Now he's an old man, and I really enjoy him coming into the theaters again because he took a really, really long break from acting, and I like to see when people come back into something that they love, and you can tell there's something that they cared about. And we have the directors. We have Jared Bush. He has served as a creative officer at Walt Disney Studios since 2024, and this is co-directed also with Brian Howard. They also co-directed the first film as well, and Brian Howard has also directed stuff like Bolt, Tangled, and Encanto. And so I'm very excited to see what these guys have going. I've seen a few of the trailers because they have released a few of them, and it looks really funny. I'm really big into like buddy cop films because those are just so fun to watch, and just seeing the way the characters interact with each other, and just like the opening scene of the trailer is them at a therapy session as buddy cops, and they're trying to get to know each other, and it just looks extremely funny.
Yes, and going on a bit about that, as the number and the name suggests, this is the sequel to the original Zootopia movie, where we followed Nick Wilde and Judy Hopps as they helped save the city of the titular Zootopia from, I believe, mayoral corruption, if I'm not mistaken. The mayor's assistant was behind it all. Mm-hmm. That was much more talking about prey versus predator, but today on Zootopia 2, there's a different dynamic going on in the world of Zootopia, namely a secret section of Zootopia people have never really learned about. Reptiles. All things scaly and cold-blooded are actually in Zootopia, and just not in the places you would expect them to be. The last movie emphasized very heavily on partnership and unity, and how in the face of everything that makes us different, if you're a hippo or if you're a rabbit, if you're a fox or a giraffe, what makes us different is what unites us more so than divides us. And it's only when we let people and things divide us from using our differences that we allow ourselves to kind of drift apart and separate. Zootopia 2, I think, follows along those themings pretty well, especially as we get into that topic of just the general plots. Something's amok in Zootopia, and from my understanding, Gary D. Snake is a crux of whatever's happening here. Do you know more about the trailers? I know there's more than one trailer you've seen.
Yeah, so I've seen a few trailers because they have one where, like I said, it just opens up with them in the little therapy session. Then there's one that opens up in their boss's office, and he kind of tells them what's going on and that now that they're working together and basically what they need to do. And I liked how you talked about the themes because as I watched the trailers, you could tell that at first they look at the snake, and it's like, ooh, he's not supposed to be here. Bad person. We got to arrest him. And then it looks like, ooh, he might not be a bad person. He might just be existing in a world, you know? And so I really like that, where you can't really like judge a book by its cover. I like that theme for sure.
Yes, and you also had mentioned that a lot about, like, especially the partner therapy that they have. A lot of this movie seems to be taking a lot more emphasis on Judy and Nick's relationship, like as a working relationship. Just questioning how they are going to be partners. I remember the big scary bit that's kind of motivating our buddy cops into the action is that they're threatening to be split up if they don't actually get this case solved. So I think that's going to play a lot more into the themings that we've seen from the original movie of just unity and finding out what really makes people connect despite their differences. And again, I think this movie does kind of take attention away from that original dynamic of like predator versus prey that the original movie saw, and takes it more into a broader spectrum from just that and into more of like animal groups, but also still taking that main focus of our dynamic duo in a big scary world that I think Zootopia 2 is notorious for. And I think from what I've seen online, from the reviews I've already seen flooding in from today, I think this movie is going to resonate well with those themings yet again.
That's right, because the movie does come out today, doesn't it?
Yeah, I've seen it. Wednesday, November 22nd, everyone. 26th. Sorry. The first movie I remember was very, very well received. I think it had 90% plus ratings on Rotten Tomatoes, IMDb. So there is a very high bar to meet here. But again, from what I've seen, a lot of people seem to believe it already has met that bar.
That's good to hear, because I guess since I've gotten older, I haven't really been into the Disney animation stuff. And I know this isn't a Pixar film, but it's still Disney animated. And so this looks like something I would actually go watch, just straight off from the trailers, because like I said, it looks funny. It genuinely looks funny. And I think I'm really going to go watch this movie for sure.
All right. Well, I mentioned the ratings before, and I know that we, being professional movie reviewers, definitely trust us with your news. Trust us. All jokes aside, we like to give a rating on this show. Usually, this is just going to boil down to a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Shawn, are you ready to give your verdict with your little thumb?
I'm trying to think. Yeah, I think I'm going to give it a thumbs up for sure.
Obviously, I'm going to give it a thumbs up too. I think this movie is a great family-friendly piece to talk about and just have some fun and explore some deeper themes while still entertaining the kiddos. All right, moving on to our next topic, we're going into the wonderful world of the Upside.
Right on time.
Right on time. Paranormal activity in the studio, everyone. As we are going to the Upside Down and also Hawkins. As we're talking about Stranger Things Season 5, also known as the last season of Stranger Things. There's a lot of stakes here, if I'm not mistaken. Shawn, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, there should be a lot of stakes going. Since, like you said, it's the final season, I've seen reports of the actors online saying this season might be a lot sadder than other seasons, because since it's the final season, they have more leeway to kill characters off in certain ways. And so I'm curious to see who all gets to live at the end of the story, because it's going on since 2016, correct?
Right, I got it in my notes here. Stranger Things first premiered worldwide on July 15th, 2016. If that doesn't put a couple gray hairs on your head, I don't know what will. But this show and the season finale and the season ending is a long, long time coming.
9 years in the making.
9 years, yeah. I remember watching that back in high school, honestly. It feels like so much time's gone by since then, hasn't it? We lived through an entire pandemic and we haven't seen the end of that show yet.
100%.
Well, it's going to be coming up soon, actually. The first installations of the season has officially already dropped as of today, the 26th. I got it right this time. However, there's new installations that are going to be coming out. On the 25th, a couple of more episodes are going to release. And then on New Year's Eve, December 31st, the season finale drops, which is going to be presumably the end of the entire show.
And just to talk about more of the stuff on the episodes that's dropping, you have today, they dropped 4 chapters, because they call them chapters, which are episodes. And then they will be dropping in volume 2. That will contain 3 episodes. And then the finale will be on December 31st, New Year's. And that's going to be 1 episode, which should be fun. And like I said earlier, I want to see some of these characters. make it to the end, because like I said, it's been 9 years in the making, so have a lot of attachment to these people. And I just want to say a quick RIP to some of my favorite characters that didn't make it to this far in the show. Rest in peace Bob, rest in peace Eddie, rest in peace Barbara, rest in peace Billy. All a lot of big characters that were fan favorites.
Rest in peace. May their egos always be fluffy.
Mm-hmm.
And so what's actually going to be killing them is Vecna. He is a big bad that was introduced in season 4. Never really before seen in seasons prior to that, from my understanding, though it may have an astute eye. I might be wrong.
He was low-key teased. He was kind of teased in the first season, but we didn't know what a Vecna was. We didn't know who he was. But the directors have been dropping hints that the Demogorgon that was chasing Will in the first season, they said that Demogorgons aren't telepathic, and so they can't move stuff without touching it. And somehow, when Will was running away, the door unlocked by itself. And then you also hear some of the same bells that when Vecna is first introduced, or anytime he comes on camera, you hear the ding. You also can slightly hear those during that chase too. So it's very speculated that it's going to be revealed that Vecna may or may not have been chasing Will since season 1.
Crazy times, crazy times. Well, Vecna is also taking its way into Hawkins. We saw last season this to a degree, kind of punching holes through reality for the Upside Down to kind of seep into the real world. Well, this at the end of season 4, we saw that was fully in fruition. The Upside Down has invaded the real world in this show, and we're going to see a lot more high stakes action because of that. Demogorgons jumping through the air, taking on soldiers. We're going to see Vecna himself walking around it's Indiana, right? That's where Hawkins is? Yeah.
Sure is.
Walking around Indiana himself, and allegedly going to be taking one last favor from Will, if the trailers are true. So all in all, pretty high stakes show, and high stakes indeed, I say, because again, it's been 9 years in the making. The bar for quality is monumental at this point.
And the thing about this show is, these episodes are a little bit longer, and they're kind of like short films. They're about an hour long, so it's about short films. They're really shot really cinematically. This show is just, in my opinion, like 5 out of 5, like 10 out of 10. It's just beautiful. The soundtrack's great. I think everything about this show, even the directing, the acting, everything about it, it feels like top tier. So I'm excited.
All right, well, we'll have to see if the show rolls a nat 20 or a nat 1 to end off the series. You ready to give your rating?
Sure. I'm going to give it a double thumbs up because, like I said, I'm very excited for this one. Out of all these things, this is probably the one I'm most excited for sure.
Well, I'm going to give it a solid thumbs up myself. I have been a longtime fan of Stranger Things. And honestly, if you're a fan of cosmic horror, if you're a fan of all things dark and spooky, and hey, maybe a bit flavored like Eggo waffles, this show could be for you. Going to that kind of dark and macabre setting, we're going to the wonderful world, or, wonderful on paper, world of Five Nights at Freddy's 2. This movie is based off of a video game franchise. This is important for all you parents out there, as your kids might be familiar with it. Shawn, you want to talk more about the casting?
Yeah, so we got Josh Hutcherson. He was in the first one. He's returning as Mike Schmidt, and y'all might know him from other movies. He's very popular. And you have Matthew Lillard, who's going to play William Afton. And Matthew Lillard is a very popular horror actor. He's been in Scream.
And most importantly, everyone knows him from Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
That's the real horror. That's live-action Scooby-Doo there.
That's a great movie, though. And then you're going to have Megan Fox play Toy Chica. When I saw that, everyone was going crazy online for that. So I'm excited to see that for sure.
And I can't help but notice, again, you left out my boy. Matthew Pathu. His YouTube name is Matt Pat. He pioneered Game Theories, a channel on YouTube that really popularized Five Nights at Freddy's, enough to the point where you can see movies about it. He, if I'm not mistaken, is playing Toy Bonnie, one of the animatronics that will doing certain
malicious
acts in the show. Speaking of the movie itself, like I was saying earlier, this is based off of a game franchise. Parents, this is going to be important because your kids are going to be familiar with it to a degree. Of course, this was a horror franchise, so it's going to be spooky. There's going to be probably kind of implied murder in the show. Maybe like off camera, you might see a shadow cast on the wall as someone dies. But you're going to be seeing a lot of high stakes action, a couple of jump scares that the franchise is well known and loved for, and all in all, some scary content. However, for those young adults to teenagers and preteens, this is going to be quality content for them. This is going to be stuff that they're familiar with and the stuff that they might be asking you to see in theaters when it comes out in early, I think mid-December, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I want to say it was December 15th to be exact. Oh, it is December 5th.
And I will also say, too, that Five Nights at Freddy's, this movie series is very derivative of the game itself. So if your kids have played the games, they will be familiar with it. However, it is not canon, which means that anything that happens in the movies is not necessarily actually what happened in the overall story of the video games. That's important because a lot of what made Five Nights at Freddy's popular for kids and for just about any kind of longtime fan of the series was the very intricate lore and story and references. Every single last detail, every single last item you'll see on screen, everything in that franchise tends to have some deeper meaning. And so for the lore enthusiasts out there, or for your little kids that might just really, really enjoy Five Nights at Freddy's, this is a wonderful trip down memory lane because the original games, Five Nights at Freddy's 2, came out years ago at this point.
Yeah, I've never played the game, but when I was watching the trailer, I noticed Josh Hutcherson's character, he was getting chased by something, and this was right at the end, so they emphasized this. He was getting chased, and he put on, or it looked like a mask. Does that have to do with like the game? Is that game mechanics?
Yeah, actually. So in Five Nights at Freddy's 2, there is a Freddy mask that the original game has you have the ability to shut security doors to defend yourself against the animatronics. However, in Five Nights at Freddy's 2, you don't get doors. Instead, you have a flashlight. And when the animatronics get into your office, because you can't ward them off with a flashlight on occasion, you can don a Freddy mask to actually, in the lore, like I said, the lore is a bit deep. In the lore, it's said that this mask is used to kind of trick the animatronics into believing you are an animatronic yourself. If that's the case, who knows? But in the movies, that's likely how it will work as well.
I can imagine just being a fan of the game, knowing the lore, and seeing him pick up the mask and just not do anything. The mask just doesn't work.
I mean, honestly, that would be funny too. I'm not gonna lie. We'll see what happens in the movie, though. You ready to give your rating?
Yeah, I'll give that one a thumbs up. Like I said, I never played the game before, but the trailer made it look pretty interesting, so I'll give it a thumbs up.
I'll give it a thumbs up too. Again, my only warning is that maybe don't let your baby little kids out there, like, if little Timmy really wants to go, then don't let little Timmy go, okay? But like, if you got preteen and older, that should be a fine demographic for this movie. It's PG-13, if I'm not mistaken.
Sure is, yep.
So it should be suitable for those kinds of audiences. All right, moving on to our last entry, we have Fallout Season 2. This is also one of those franchises that, this one's a TV show, but this one is also based on video games. And there's a lot riding on the show this time around for longtime Fallout fans. But first things first, Shawn, you want to talk about the casting? There's star-studded cast, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they have some pretty big names. You have Ella Purnell, she's playing the main character. Her name is Lucy McLean. Then you have Aaron Martin, he plays Maximus, which I haven't seen the first season, which you were telling me that he's going to be a pretty big character. And then you have Walter Goggins playing the Ghoul / Cooper Howard.
Good old Walton Goggins, best known for his star-studded performances as that one Dorito guy, and also, I think, the Grinch in a recent commercial.
Yeah,
he's known for a lot more, trust me, though. Fallout Season 2, unlike what I was talking about with Five Nights at Freddy's 2, Fallout Season 2 is unique in that it's canon to the games, meaning that any stories being told in the first season and the second season are officially what happened in the overall story that the Fallout franchise, games included, is trying to tell. The reason why this is so important is because this season they're going to the Mojave Wasteland, also known as the Las Vegas area, but in lore now called New Vegas. New Vegas is the name of an entry into the franchise called Fallout New Vegas. Fallout New Vegas is an icon in Fallout gaming. Most people who get into the Fallout series, the first game they'll recommend you to play is Fallout New Vegas. It's cherished for its story design and for its multiple endings and all these different stories and memories that unfold in the wasteland, which is important because Season 2 takes place after the events of Fallout New Vegas, meaning that anything that the show kind of talks about happening is officially the canonized telling of events that happen in the game series that should be considered going forward.
So this one directly correlates with the game.
Yes.
Okay.
There will be some endings that we'll see that are canon, and there will be some things that are no longer going to be considered canon that were possibilities in the game franchise itself. So it is a proper telling of events that might make some fans very happy, might make some fans incredibly mad. And that is a scary thing because the show is not entirely well received in terms of how it handles some game events. One of the biggest events, spoiler warning, click off now or pause the video and skip ahead, is that in the towards the end of season 1 is revealed that a capital city of one of the major factions was nuked by a nuclear bomb and killed thousands of people. The problem is that in the games, this was never stated to have happened. So this TV series is not new to making big lore changes. And so for a long-time Fallout fan, this season might have them biting their fingernails, or it could have them throwing their popcorn in excitement. We'll see.
So I know you're a big Fallout guy. So how...
Can you tell?
So how do you feel about them derivating from the lore or getting away from the lore a little bit?
I always think that TV shows kind of have their own liberties that they're allowed to take. So long as I think it's faithful to the franchise and doesn't exactly kind of retcon everything that certain developers worked so hard to achieve, I usually allow some kind of lore replacements. For example, there's one set of power armor, in this case power armor being like these massive tank-like suits of armor.
Is that what's shown in the trailer that one guy's wearing?
Yes.
Okay.
You'll see them wandering around the trailers in these big mechanized suits. One of these suits of power armor has, I believe, red eyes and kind of like a traditional army-looking helmet, is made by the NCR. That's the New California Republic, and that's that faction I mentioned that had gotten nuked before. The New California Republic didn't really have power armor in the traditional sense. They only had like a mockery of it, if you will. Not the mechanized suits, but rather pieces of that said armor strapped to the body. So seeing them having a fully mechanized suit for the first time ever, and have that scene at least appear to be, we don't know for certain, appear to be actually like endorsed by that faction, it has nice additions. But again, things like massive lore events that could possibly skew multiple games worth of storytelling, such as the nuking of a capital city, that can recontextualize previous entries into the genre, into the franchise, it's a scary thing. So I don't mind minor lore additions or changes.
Okay.
But it's when it gets to be massive and, dare I say, cataclysmic at times, that's when it gets scary.
Interesting, because I like to ask that just because I watch a lot of Marvel movies, and I'm not someone who's like, oh, it has to be exactly like the comics. Because I know there's a lot of comic book fans who are like, oh, they made this little change right here, therefore I hate this. Blah, 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 blah. So that's pretty cool.
I always believe that if the adaptation is overall more faithful to the source material, as long as it captures the spirit of the source material, I think that it's free to make some changes as need be. And speaking of capturing the spirit of the source material, I have to say this show has some dark humor and some dark moments. There's going to be gore on TV, vulgarity. There might be some crude humor out there. So parents, this might not be the best show for your kids, but for longtime Fallout fans or for people that like that kind of humor, that like to see people go boom, or they like to see massive nuclear explosions, or they like to see people just take the whacking nature of living in a post-apocalypse and taking it lightheartedly rather than so seriously, you might find a home in this franchise. And I will say now that I know I love Fallout. We've already established that very clearly by how I went on like a 5-minute rant, I'm pretty sure. But Fallout, the TV show, I believe does a decent job at kind of onboarding people who aren't familiar with the franchise. So you don't need to know everything that's happening. You don't need to know what every single last character is. You'll miss some nice content to have, context to have for the greater story being told, but it's still a serviceable watch if you just don't know what's going on but want to watch some high-flying action in a post-apocalyptic setting.
Yep, that's what I was about to ask. So for new viewers who are not familiar with the franchise, but that's good that people who aren't familiar can easily step into a world like this because it sounds interesting for sure.
I find it so myself. All right, but are you ready to give your rating?
I am.
Get your
for
thumbs ready for ups and downs.
Sure. All right, I'm gonna give this one a thumbs up for sure. This one looks interesting. I'm very into like the post-apocalyptic kind of stuff, and so seeing the way these characters move around in this world, seeing them interact with these. In the trailer, showed a big old, I think it was a big old cockroach jumping into his chest. That looks. I hate cockroaches, but that looked insane. So I'm really ready to see what this world has to show us.
And I'm going to give you my completely unbiased, objective, definitely true thumbs up. Trust me. Okay, again, all jokes aside, I love this franchise and I will definitely want to watch the new season. So, of course, I'm going to give it a thumbs up. But again, like I was saying, if you even have no idea what Fallout is, if you, so long as you're willing to bear with dark humor, the blood and the viscera, and the darker details that this story tends to unpack, you'll find a good series, in my humble opinion.
Nice.
All right, well, that's all the time we have today for today's episode of Silver Screening. Stay tuned with Concho Valley Homepage. You can find us on our CTV app whenever it's available. And you can find us on ConchoValleyHomepage.com for the latest and greatest in local news and now TV and movie reviews. This is Aaron McGuire and Shawn Torres. Stay tuned.